welcome to the very quick-fire game show, What Are All These Ducks Doing Lying Around? Yes, Alan? Is the answer that they've eaten too much stale cake? No, Alan, you're wrong. You're wronger than a man who's just removed all his trousers and wandered casually into a cactus emporium. Alan Millie hails from Canberra, owns a lice farm, punches dingoes in a dingo punching circus, and once sneezed near someone who he thought was Owen Wilson at an all-you-can-grill topless boat party. You're listening to What Are All These Ducks Doing Lying Around? And we're still looking for a possible answer to what are all these ducks doing lying around? Yes, Tad. Is the answer they're tired after a particularly heavy cricket game? No, that's still not the answer, and it looks like we're running out of time. And so we'll have to wait till next week to find out just what are all these ducks doing lying around. Wait just one bally moment. I'm Gerald Hibiscus, coat made of otters. Gasp! Gerald Hibiscus, coat made of otters. And I'm interrupting the show to make a very important announcement. They're selling half-price corked hats at the local 8 till late shop. We already know that, Gerald. I bought 3 today. All right then, I'll sod off. Please do. The ducks are all lying around because I poisoned them because I hate ducks and much prefer the majestic Canadian goose. Wait, what did you say? I said the ducks are all lying around because I poisoned them because I hate ducks and I much prefer the majestic Canadian goose. And that is the right answer. Goebbels, tell him what he's won.
Well, Pat, he's won 14 herring-shaped frigid ornaments, a can of industrial cabbage grease, and several knitted effigies of Geoffrey Palmer, the well-respected English actor with the jowls, globes and globes of mouldy salad dressing in a hat, the album What's All This Then by Fatty Bantam and the Biggles Teeth, a pair of soiled Dutch trousers donated by famous Amsterdam artist Splooge Njugen, Lily Frung's book Poetry for the Elderly, a severed badger face nailed to a twig, a signed Barry Humphries, Fern Britton's glazed spleen, the bags belonging to a dwarf wizard child named Pip, and I really am very sorry. And now, as if I couldn't be sorrier than what I already was, it's the After Movie Diner.
You're listening to the After Movie Diner with your host, Jon Cross. And now, here's your host, Jon Cross.
Hello, I'm Eric Basil No, wait a minute. No, I'm not. I'm Jon Cross. And I'm just doing this little message before we get on with all the madness, just to plead to everyone out there. Well, not plead. We'll ask. We'll beg. Well, get on all fours and bark around like a small animal, just to say, please do contact us. And contact us using email, hello@aftermoviediner.com. That's hello@aftermoviediner.com. Telephone number, 347-669-0053. That's 347-669-0053, or you can go over to speakpipe.com/aftermoviediner, or go over to aftermoviediner.com and fill out the contact form on the website. You'd think with all these ways to contact us, we'd be being contacted all the time because people just would not stop. We've also got Facebook. That's facebook.com/aftermoviediner. There's Twitter, @AfterMovieDiner. Basically, wherever After Movie Diner is, that's where we are. So why not contact us, you bastards? And now to Brooklyn and a rather famous diner. I'll stop that. Hello and welcome to this week's After Movie Diner. And here we are in Junior's.
Why are you saying it like that?
Because from Last Crusade. Junior! Like Sean
That's
Connery.
the worst Sean Connery. I mean, Sean Connery is one of the easiest impressions in the world.
Well, you do it then. Go Juniors!
But it's just not a Sean Connery
Oh,
word.
shut up, whatever.
All
He
right.
says it in
At
fucking...
no point does he go, Juniors!
Yeah, he does. He goes, Junior! Like that. Like, all the way through The Last Crusade, he does that.
The more you practice it, the slightly better it gets.
Anyway, we're here in Brooklyn, in famous diner, where
Famous
we
diner.
did the
yeah, what did we do?
4th anniversary here,
Did
where
we?
we went to see something at BAM, that one with Chris Christopherson.
Oh, yeah. No, not Chris Christopherson.
Yeah, Chris Christopherson was in it.
Was he?
Yeah, he was the main dude in it. It was all like set in Seattle. And he
No, I
wore,
remember that.
It was like a kind of beatnik.
Oh,
movie.
I do remember it. You're right, it was him.
But anyway, here we are in Juniors.
Better.
Juniors. It should have been a bit lower down.
It was like, Juniors!
Juniors. I should have mailed it to the Marx Brothers.
Should have mailed
So we're here in Juniors, and we have just been
That
to
we've
the
established, yes.
Alamo Drive. Juniors. I'm never going to get tired of saying that. And we're here. We just went to the Alamo Draft House to watch a movie, and my wonderful, splendid, thigh-bendingly, awesomely,
Interrupting?
shavedly, headedly guy, co-host, man, gentle thing, who's with me. My goodness, they have turned the heat up, haven't they? Oh, I'll take my jacket off now. Anyway, you know who he is. Your friend and mine, everyone's favourite clown. It's Jim Wallace.
Nobody's ever described me as everybody's favourite clown before. Thank you very much for having me.
And I feel, considering the movie we're doing, I should have shaved off my beard, shaved off my hair, and be like wearing a slightly skinny hoodie, and just to unnerve you.
Oh, I see. I totally didn't. I thought you were going down the 90s route.
Yeah. No, well, that as well.
Yeah.
That as well. But we're both men of the 90s.
Oh, we are? Wow.
Look at this. Beets and onions.
Pickles, coleslaw.
Pickles, coleslaw.
Lovely,
You are
thank you
never
very
short
much.
of anything here at Juniors. But yeah, so what was the movie we saw?
We saw Single White Female.
Singly White Female.
Part of the Jennifer Jason Leigh Festival.
Part of... I don't think it was a festival. I think they need to change it. Like, festival suggests celebration of some kind.
She should be celebrated. She's very good.
She should be celebrated, but I feel that her movies in general are not celebratory affairs. They're more kind of how
Actually, that's
miserable.
quite weird because I was thinking, when I said to Teresa,
Like a lot of her movies are pretty dark.
The
Pretty
thing is, I was thinking
Juniors.
about Jennifer Jason Leigh.
You were thinking
And I was
about
thinking, I really like
In
Jennifer
a
Jason Leigh.
dirty way.
She's always really good. And I
Yeah.
started to think about the movies I've seen her in.
Yeah.
And I thought,
What's she really
I
good
can't
at?
think of any like big famous ones. I know that they're a big fan. I
okay,
mean, like, as
so-
in, she was in. Like, I was going, I love her in Existence, but like,
Right. So no, her movies, I would say, she is the prime actress for back when there were rather, sort of the middle class movies, meaning the $20 to $70 million budgeted. They're not big blockbusters. They're not your little indies, although she has done some indies as well. She's more your, like you say, like Existence, like back when Cronenberg was making movies, or back when like the Coen brothers were starting out, whatever. Like she's your like
But
poster
you know what I
child
mean?
for
Like,
that. She's not in a.
But Cronenberg did big movies, and Coen Brothers do. I mean, there's like big successful movies. I can't think of like a defining, role for her. You know what I mean? Like if Kathy Bates' Misery, say, for example.
Right.
Or I don't know.
Well, she's done. Okay, so she's. I mean, I would say her defining role is single white female.
Really?
Yeah, or Last Exit to Brooklyn. Because
Neither of us have ever seen that.
No, I remember seeing the video cover though and thinking, oh look, Jennifer Jason Leigh in another miserable film about miserable people probably
No, but
being
that's not a
really
defining movie, though, is it?
No, but she's in a lot of classics now. Like The Hitcher is now a classic.
Yeah, but you're-
Fast
okay,
Time
so-
at Ridgemont High.
When I was trying to think of a
I know what you
movie
mean. I know
to,
what
like,
you
tell
mean. I know what you
Teresa,
mean.
like,
I do know what you mean.
Juniors. She's in,
Yeah.
and then meh. So anyway, that's why we went and saw. We're now perusing the menu, I guess, right?
Well, I'm looking at it.
Okay, so I've got a question.
Sorry, we'll probably need one more minute.
Yeah, we're
Sorry.
sorry. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
What are griddle cakes exactly?
Griddle cakes.
Griddle cakes.
Where are they?
Under breakfast all day. I'm assuming it's like a pancakey thing, is it?
Griddle cake. Where do you see that?
Down the bottom. Griddle cake with bacon, with sausage. I feel like it seems like it might be kind of a pancake thing, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Why don't you just pick something you know what it is?
Because I like the sound of griddle cakes. What's wrong with that? Why am I enemy of the people?
You're not enemy of the people. It's just you have to go into this whole big thing. Ask the gentleman when he comes back over, excuse me, Squire, what are griddle cakes?
All right,
Assume that they're pancakes and move on.
Okay. All right, then, all right.
I'm just going to do ham, egg and chips. Which is pretty average for me, but there we go. They're burgers. I can say if you're going to have a burger, they are pretty big and dense. I found them a bit heavy. Last time I had a burger when I was...
Alright, I'll probably just get the burger anyway. I think I'm going to go for the griddle cakes.
Oh, they
with
do a
turkey
chicken
sausage.
parmigiana.
Yes, I'm going with griddle cakes. I'm not even going to ask what they are. Griddle cakes with turkey sausage.
Chicken on a bun.
What madness is this? Chicken on a bun, you say? What mad fool thought this? And put it on a menu?
Wait, what happened?
Julius?
You mean that? Wait a minute. Let me understand this, Jeffrey.
They put the bun on the chicken,
They took
right?
a chicken and a bun, and they put chicken on a bun? That'd be ridiculous.
You're fired.
Get
out of my office.
You're fine. I've had enough of your chicken and bun scenario,
Get out
Jeffrey.
of the very small restaurant office.
Yeah.
Restaurant offices are always very small.
What are we
Lots
looking
of files. I'm reminiscing about small restaurant offices. And the good listeners to the After Movie Diner are pressing pause and thinking, should we bother? Should we bother going on with this?
Let's not bother.
Are they gonna talk about single white female at any point?
No.
Yes, we are. Yes, we will.
Yeah, so I know what you're saying. She's not known for like one particular standout role. I think she's known for many. She's known as like she's a strongly regarded actress.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can I get the griddle cakes with the turkey sausage? Lovely. And a cup of chamomile tea. Thank you.
I will have 2 eggs over easy. Can I get that with the Virginia ham, please? And French fries. Yes, comes with fries. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I agree. Who she is. It's just an odd thing. When I started to think about, and all I could think of was.
Well,
like,
I would say no, but that's not true. You can't say obscure. The Hitcher is not an obscure movie.
Well, no, but it's a okay.
Single White Female is not an obscure movie.
But
Fast Times at Ridgemont High is not an obscure movie.
But I've never seen
Dorothy Parker in the Circle of Whatever.
I've never seen any of these.
No, I know. Dorothy Parker in the Vicious Circle.
Obscure, but I'm saying
that's fairly obscure. It wasn't back in the VHS days because I remember seeing the trailer for it ad nauseum. But that's fairly obscure. But like Hudsucker Proxy, that's kind of obscure, but like at least movie fans know what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying she doesn't have an impressive body of work. I'm just saying it was odd to me while I was thinking of her that I couldn't think of a single like, oh, that's who Jennifer Jason is.
But you don't think the Single White Female is her defining?
Well, because I've never seen her. If someone had said to me before today,
right,
who's Jennifer Jason Leigh? Like, oh, who's Jennifer Jason Leigh again? I go,
really? All right.
Well, but that's what happened. I couldn't think of a movie. See, I really like her, and I've seen all these movies. I just couldn't.
Back in the day, I was a bit.
All I could think of was
I was a bit of Jason
and
Leigh.
what's the Christian Bale one where he's? Really
I didn't even think of Existence.
Machinist. That's what I thought. Machinist.
Right. Now, this explains this, but this shows what I mean. At a certain point in the 90s and probably the early 2000s, because I'm not entirely sure when all these movies came out, but because I think Existence
is late 90s.
Right. Okay. So in the 90s, let's just say the 90s.
The 90s.
Because I think this podcast...
Let's say the 90s.
Let's say the 90s. Let's say it one more time and then
Let's say the 90s.
Move it on.
And then we're just going to move on.
The 90s.
We're never going to say it again.
Welcome back. We're still saying the 90s. Welcome back, and they're still playing snooker. So, in the 90s, I think... Juniors. In the 90s, juniors 90s.
No, you're just freestyling.
Shit, no, I am. No.
Spinning your wheels.
No,
mate.
I'm not spinning.
Reset.
No, I'm stuck in a rut.
Right.
Stuck in a rut. Juniors. So, I think she was in, and not the face of, but certainly I think maybe the name of or something, those, not exactly low budget or indie, but those studio movies that weren't like your big blockbusters.
A bit offbeat.
Right. She was never in a Jurassic Park, let's say, or whatever.
Right.
But she was, or what were the other big blockbusters in the 90s?
Independence Day?
Right. She's not going to show up in that. She's not quirky enough to show up in one of them, like a Sam Neill or a Jeff Goldblum or whatever.
Right.
But she's not. She's certainly well known enough that she's in movies made by studios, right?
Right.
So, at a certain point, however, when those movies dry up, because you don't, like, one of the things we'll talk about, presumably, is those 90s home invasion thrillers, or 90s thrillers in general, that you just don't really get anymore. Like, they just don't really make those films anymore.
No, probably.
There's the odd one. There was that one with Samuel L. Jackson living next door to Patrick Wilson at the end of a cul-de-sac, and they were kind of like, there was a lot of racial tension, and
That was more of a 2000s thing.
but that's what I'm saying. They do make them occasionally, but
Right,
they're not the raison.
Right, I
they're
see
not
what
the
you're
thing
saying,
that they were making. They're not. There was a whole rash of them at a certain point.
Yeah,
like
when he said
even
them,
Goldie Hawn did one.
Yeah.
She did Deceived.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
No.
Where it was like, I married a man, but I don't really know who he is, and it turns out he's a spy or something.
Well, I guess they were kind of like almost.
There was a paranoia of your neighbour.
Well, this one was quite. This one was quite Hitchcocky, I thought.
Right.
Like the music was quite Hitchcocky. The whole like doubling thing.
Right.
Was that a clip from Vertigo on the TV in the movie? I feel like it might have been. It was
Might have
definitely Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
It might have been Vertigo. Come off me, yes. Thank you very much. Lovely. Look at that. Hot water in the bag. Thank you. Sorry.
Perfect. No, but like, so that's what I'm saying. No, it's Earl Grey, dude. That says Earl Grey on the front.
Sorry. You know what? I'm gonna have Earl Grey. I'm gonna be crazy, and I'm gonna have Earl Grey because I've served it properly, so it's actually got a chance of tasting good.
But he's not going to bring milk and sugar, though, is he?
Well, I don't take it with sugar, and I'll ask this.
Okay. So anyway, that's what I'm trying to... So, let me finish my thought. So, she was a bit of the darling of the, I would say, middle-range budgeted film
But quirky.
in the 90s.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say she was quirky. I would say some of the films she was in certainly were.
She was kind of a quirky figure, no?
I guess so. I mean, I don't
That's like
know.
a proxy, Dorothy Parker, like that one.
Right, I think she has range. I don't necessarily see her as a quirky figure.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, I guess so.
post those movies, you do see her like The Machinist, like Greenberg, like a couple of the others. You see her showing up more in what is considered indie fare. Like if it's a Fox Searchlight movie, she's probably in it.
Well, there's probably
You know what I
more,
mean?
but also I think there are these
So
days
instead of making the leap,
more interesting parts for older women.
I get it, but what I'm saying is, instead of making the leap to being in like a blockbuster movie, like the lady from Homicide who won the Oscar and said fuck on the
Melissa
Oscar. Melissa Leo shows up randomly in Olympus Has Fallen, for example.
Yeah, good point.
Right, she's a bit awful in it, but
Laura
she does.
Dern in Jurassic Park.
Laura Dern, Jurassic Park. I'm saying there are older ladies who aren't Meryl Streep who have gone on to do blockbustery things. Meryl Streep can still get a mid-range
Yes, fair point.
budget movie greenlit,
Do you-
right? Julia Roberts can still get a mid-range
Do
budget
you think
movie
she's
greenlit.
kind of a...
But Jennifer Jason Leigh, she's not going to be able to walk into the studio and be like, I would like 60 million to make my...
Do you remember how Johnny Depp used to be before he went mad?
Yes.
When he would only do like interesting, quirky movies
Right.
that he thought were
Yes,
worthwhile.
she was sort of-
seems to do like that kind of a thing.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, to do this, okay, take this movie for example, right? To do this movie, if you're like an up and coming Hollywood actress,
Right.
like, I mean, she's not up and coming at this point, but she's still like, she's getting going, right?
Well, she's been in a couple of big things by this point.
But it's
A couple of big rentals.
There's a commendable. Can I get some milk? Sorry.
Sorry?
Some milk.
Milk?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Milk or half an hour?
Milk. Thanks. Yeah, there's a commendable like lack of ego in like taking this part. I mean, it's a real like, you know, it's one to get your teeth into.
Yeah, I mean...
Plus, she's acting opposite a paper bag in red hair, aka Bridget Fonda.
Right.
So it's easy to, you know.
Is that how you see her as Bridget Fonda?
Well, she's not very good, is she?
Right, I have to say, and I don't think anyone's particularly, like, great. Yes, Jennifer, in this movie. Yes, Jennifer Jason Leigh, like, gets to be, you know, slightly creepy and slightly quirky and twitchy and
She was
kind of...
very sympathetic.
Really?
Yeah. I felt very sorry for her.
When? When she killed the dog? When she beat the gay guy over the head with a big stick?
Well, no, but the gay guy, she wasn't like... I don't know. Yes. Okay,
He was saying,
but that's the point.
you're
isn't
not
it?
in
Like,
danger, don't worry, we just want to help you.
Puppy,
And she...
right?
Right.
And if she thank you very much. And if she, like, removed an iron pipe from a gay man's head, then it would be easy to feel sympathy for her.
Right.
I'm saying...
You felt sympathy for her just because she wasn't Bridget Fonda, and apparently,
No,
from your
no.
non-Bridget Fonda status,
No, I'm not
you
saying like
don't
I'm a
think you like
Fondaist.
Fonda.
I'm not Bridgetist.
You are a Fondaist of the highest order.
I'm just saying...
I did catch him.
I don't think it's controversial.
Burning copies of. What is Bridget Fonda best known for? What's that? The Professional rip-off she did. That's a remake of the La Femme Nikita. No, Point of Return. No, Point of No Return.
I thought it was called Nikita.
No, it was called
The
Point of No
Assassin. It's
Return.
called The Assassin.
In England, maybe over here, it was called Point of No Return.
All right, fair enough.
Anyway,
She was rubbish in that.
I've caught
She was
you
rubbish in
burning
Jackie
copies
Brown.
of it. Well, she just really did. No,
rubbish.
She didn't really like get the movie to be like. Well, it's a simple plan, I guess. She's all right now.
I'm not saying she's bad or anything. I'm just saying this is a two-hander, right?
Right.
And
She doesn't get a lot to do except be a bit of an
Right, but
uppity
she's-
90s yuppie bitch,
right,
really.
but I'm just saying she's not great. Whereas I thought Jennifer Jason Leigh was great. I thought she managed to make what could have been an over-the-top, you know, like I'm crazy, watch out for me, you know, performance into something that had nuance and sympathy.
True. Yes.
You know, when she was hurt by people, when people did things like, I don't know, called her crazy, or I don't know, there were just, I'm trying to think now, but there were moments in the movie where people did things that were painful to her, and you felt it. You know, it wasn't like you didn't feel it like, oh, she's going to go crazy now, but like I felt for her. And I think the goal...
Even though she was a mass murdering psychopath.
She wasn't a mass murderer. Like the first...
Well,
she didn't kill the gay guy.
she thought she had.
Right, but it wasn't like... If she'd been... You know, it would have been one of those ones where, like, you know, the shots they love in Hollywood where they keep beating with them with
Right.
like long after he did. He only
Right.
hit her with it a couple of times and
Oh,
dumped
wow.
him in a bath.
Oh, well, that's
that.
all right then. Only hit him a few times, so he had a
granted,
massively...
She wasn't super, you know,
Right.
careful about what
Right.
she did with the iron pipe. I'm just saying she didn't actually kill him.
Then she went and
And the
raped
second one
the
was
fiancé.
the second one was an
Mouth
accident.
rape.
Was an accident.
It's not an accident.
It is an accident. She threw a shoe at him.
No, she didn't. She picked up a stiletto.
She hit him with the shoe.
She didn't hit him with
Normally,
the shoe. She
I'm just
picked up
saying,
with a
9
stiletto.
times out of 10.
She picked up a stiletto, spun it around in her hand so that it was facing that way, and she swung it into his face.
She hit him with a shoe like that.
She
and she
swung
meant
it-
to cause him damage, no doubt. But the fact that the stiletto went through his eyeball
Right.
into his brain and killed him stone dead was, I feel, the luck of the draw
And
more
then she
than
started to
like,
stroke him with her foot, going, "Hello, hello."
Yeah, because he wasn't dead. That's my point.
No, I think you've underestimated the insanity of the
I know.
chick.
I'm not saying that she's not insane. I'm not going, oh, she was all right, I'd let her off and
And
have
on
her out
this
for
week's
tea.
After Movie Diner, Jim Wallace sides with psychopaths.
God, it's like drinking tea with a Daily Mail. There's no nuance. I'm just saying.
Right, no, I get it. I do understand. I do understand it, yeah.
What was nice about the movie
You are
is it wasn't just...
You are Sean Spicer trying to explain. Listen, I understand what
I am the
Hitler
Sean
did.
Spicer of the After Movie
You are.
Diner.
I am
and
the-
you can put that on my fucking whatever.
Don't tap because then people will hear it.
Sorry. That was
but
very Spicer of me.
there was-
Spicer would tap.
Spicer
on the so you could hear
Sean,
it. Yeah.
Sean,
We
take
can't
a
hear
deep
you when you
breath.
tap, mate.
Stop tapping.
Speak into the mic, don't tap it.
No, I do understand what you're saying, and
I'm just thinking it could have been.
being
It could have been a
a
bit. And what I liked about it,
right.
right?
I felt that it was a little drawn out.
Agreed.
Because by the time you're like, oh, okay, first of all, okay. let's step back a bit.
Shall I do the plot? You want to do the plot?
Let's step back a bit. Okay, fine, do the plot. What, such as it is. Do the plot.
All right, fine. Bridget Fonda, because I liked how quickly. Anyway, Bridget Fonda, bird in New York, newly arrived, wants to get married to a boyfriend, finds out that her boyfriend's cheated on her, kicks him out, gets a roommate who is Jennifer Jason Leigh. They bond, but then she makes up with boyfriend. Jennifer Jason Leigh doesn't like this, and slowly her obsession and obsessive need for companionship, specifically with Bridget Fonda, drives her to murderous acts. That's pretty good, right?
You missed a major part of it.
Which part?
Well, the fact that she's not just doing it for companionship, she's doing it because of deep guilt over her twin.
Yeah, I felt like that was... But what interested me about the movie, right? What I liked about it was
something that the writer didn't intend and you've just made up.
Yeah, all right, fine. Yeah, but it's perfectly possible. Almost certainly true.
Yeah.
Is that us?
No.
I'm saying that yes, in the standard of 90s thrillers, like they like to do.
Yeah.
Like to do, you go, well, I've got to have a reason, haven't they? They've got to have like a trauma in their past that means they like to wear hats and kill people. You know what I mean? What I liked about the 70s is like, there's no explanation. He just put on a hat and he killed people.
He killed people.
And you're looking for an explanation, tough.
And at the end of it, you found a slightly natty
we found a hat in his childhood home with a knife in it. Anyway.
All right.
All that stuff doesn't really explain. It seemed to me that the powerful moments between Jennifer Jason Leigh and Bridget Fonda were all when Jennifer Jason Leigh wishes she was like Bridget Fonda, because Bridget Fonda has everything. She's beautiful, she's stylish, she's got her own business, she's got a bloke who's like calling up and going, oh, you must get back with me because you're so great. She's like, no, I don't need you.
She's got the most ridiculously amazing New York apartment that is, of course, rent control.
It is. Could we just talk briefly about the thing that was, I think, the most 90s thing about the movie?
I'll go right ahead. What, apart from Bridget Fonda's hairstyle?
No, apart from Bridget Fonda's hairstyle. Is I'm sitting there going, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think there did used to be this many tits in movies. They were everywhere. The whole film was like covered in tits.
No,
it was like a tit analog. Right? Every time. It
was a mammary explosion. I honestly think.
But I think 90s movies used to be like.
No, I mean.
They used to have a lot of tits.
Yes and no.
You hardly ever get tits.
All right. So there are two things.
I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing.
There are two things that play into this.
Oh, the tits.
Into the tits.
Is it a left tit and a right tit?
No, we've got a lot
Is it a pair of tits?
We've got a lot to unpack here. Lot to unpack.
There are two things.
Okay, first of all,
and they're both warm and lovely.
They're both pink. In this case,
they both have nipples on the end.
They both have nipples on the end.
The nipples of truth.
They are
the two things that you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Are warm,
the nipples
truthful,
of Mother Hope are slowly running dry.
Have, nipples of hope.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Nipples. Watches is what we sell. Nipples. That is a reference to a Scandi sketch no one's ever heard of except John, me, and you. So yet again, I'm bringing up cultural touchstones that everyone can get behind. Okay, so I think to maximize the potential of marketing this movie, to use an excessively wanky phrase, but it does set up what I'm trying to talk about. On one hand, you've got the invasion thrillers, home invasion thrillers of the 90s, and you've got the I accidentally married a psychopath movies or whatever it is, or the my husband's really a spy movies, whatever it is. But on the other flip side, there was, of course, the erotic thrillers of the day, your Basic Instincts, your Fatal Attractions, your Slivers, that kind of movie. And I think that one aspect of it, I'm going to talk about the second aspect in a minute, but one aspect of it was to try and cross-market this.
Okay, yeah.
As possibly an erotic thriller, so that in the trailer you can have like glimpses of whatever, blah, 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 blah. The second thing is although it's definitely plays out as a 90s thriller with erotic elements, there is a slight art housey feel to the movie, and a slight
really?
No, there is. The way it's shot, the way it's lit.
But I thought that it was
the
more
way
like a Hitchcock throwback, but I'll shut up.
There is that aspect as well. But in the fact that it is a two-hander between two women predominantly, there is a certain I felt, especially with the endless walking from the bathroom to my bedroom scenes, or the endless, oh, I just woke up and this is what I'm wearing scenes, rather than finding them necessarily erotic, titillating, good word. There's at least one tit in that word, possibly two.
Possibly two.
Titillating.
No,
Titillating.
it's only really one.
Or what if you say titillating? There's two in there. Titillating. That rather than finding it that way, it rang a little bit more truthful in the way that two women would.
Well, see, yeah, that's what I was wondering about the whole thing. Whether
would live together, and that's where I don't necessarily mean our house. I mean kind of. There is a sort of feminist undertone. There is like you could get very wanky about this movie and dissect it in a strokey beard feminist type way.
Well, you can leave that to me, mate.
Right, exactly. There are like questions of feminine identity and sexual ambiguity and various other things that are going on in the film in the subtext, and the nudity in some way, and certainly the actors' relaxed, naturalistic nudity, because there isn't a lot of like. There is a couple of sex scenes, but there isn't a lot of like, while there's a sex scene, her breasts are glistening and bouncing and whatever.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of that. The nudity comes from recognizable human nudity. So I am walking to the bathroom, or I am changing my nightgown into my whatever, or I am like, it just seemed to me, it helped speak to the relationship between the two women. The fact that from the get-go, Jennifer Jason Leigh was perfectly comfortable being naked around Bridget Fonda, but Bridget Fonda always found it uncomfortable.
Right.
That spoke to something, and yet felt comfortable in her own nudity more often than not. But so there was a lot of interesting things going on there that I felt that the nudity played into, that was more than just let's market this as a tit fest.
That's what I was wondering is that was very I think that's the most eloquent you've ever spoken
about
on
tits.
The Diner, and it was about tits. I just want you to know that. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you. I can be eloquent from time to time,
but only when it's about tits. What I wondered basically was whether there's not an element of it, and I agree with everything you're saying, by the way, but if there's not an element of it, it's a bit like, this is what blokes think like women get up to when they live together. They just wander around all the time in the bath, and sooner or later they try and kill each other. Like at a base level,
right?
Of like women together, you know, that can be a complicated business, but I bet it's a sexy complicated business. Do you know what I mean? Like what goes on behind the closed doors.
I think
you know
if
what I
they
mean?
were rolling around in underwear hitting each other with pillows, you could possibly claim that it was a male fantasy.
Yeah.
But
No. I'm not saying fantasy. I'm saying a suspicion of what it would be like. But that they would be more natural with their own bodies, and you would, you know, and therefore it would be a bit of a tit.
No, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say, well, no, but it is exactly that way, because I don't know. But I can certainly say that. I'm
not saying in a deliberate way, but I'm wondering whether
from the female friends that I've had, or the people I've dated, or whatever. Like I say, I obviously they're not like that around me, but certainly. My understanding from conversations that I've had with women about such topics is that there is a way.
The holes you used to drill in the walls.
No, there is a far more. There is a comfort level that women have around other women that men don't have around other men. In the same way, and yet you go into any kind of locker room. And apparently certain types of men are perfectly happy to be, and I don't mean certain types of men as in homosexual, I mean certain types of men as in sporty types, weightlifters, whatever it is,
tackle out,
are happy to walk around that way.
Right.
Whereas I, although in no way homophobic, or no way...
No, I would be deeply freaked out by this.
I would have a real problem if when you came round to my house, I was like, I'm just going to go change, but I'm going to, you know... I have French doors in my house, so there's windows in it, and if I just stood by the window and just took all my clothes off, that would be deeply weird.
Yeah. I mean, if you bought me my eye scrubbers afterwards, then
Right.
that'd be okay.
No, but I'm just...
No. I take your point, and
I'm saying male to male nudity
true.
exists, but it exists in a kind of backslapping kind of type way. Well, we are men together playing sport, and you know, it exists in that way, but it doesn't exist in
Also, I suppose there's a...
let's sit around in our apartment in our underwear and talk about
Is there?
the movie.
Here's my question, right? Here's my question. Is there a sense that... Because if you're a woman, right, especially like a good-looking woman,
Right.
you wander around all the time being ogled, right? There's lots of ogling happening your way, right? And you're like, I don't quite get what all the fuss is about.
Well, you
these are
also
just
probably
like, you know,
feel objectified and,
Sure, but
and
that's not
terrified.
my point.
But
Sure,
I understand
of
what you
course.
mean.
But I'm saying you're looking at what you've got and going, what's the big
Right.
fuss about the the tits and the
The
knees,
tits and
whatever.
right.
But it's like constant. And then if you're living, with another woman and you are confident, there must be like a certain level, like, I don't know, but like an admiration of the female form, or an attempt to understand what's the big deal about this whole.
Well, it's also
this whole Breast Farrago.
I would say it's more...
Can we subtitle the episode "This Whole Breast Farrago"?
The whole Breast Farrago, sure. Probably get more downloads that way. Although people will be Googling Farrago. They're like, does he mean Fargo, the TV show? No, I think that there's some of that. I would honestly, looking at it from a more... Trying to look at it, it's difficult obviously, but trying to look at it from a more feminist female perspective, I would argue it's less trying to understand it and more having the relief and relaxation of not having to be of being able to be comfortable, because you assume that you're not being objectified and ogled for the first time in your day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, if you look at the men...
It must be an interesting old business being a lady.
Yes, it must be. If you look at the men in this movie, you have the gay friend upstairs. You have this, let's be fair, bit of a cad.
Yes.
And he's not particularly drawn out in terms of character. All you know about him is he's a bit of a floppy head.
He's a cad and a bit of but like also, I don't know if he's necessarily a catch, but he lives in a hotel, right?
Right.
Which is odd. Why does he live in a hotel?
I don't know, because it's kind of a swanky 90s business thing to do.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
Or, they were living together, she kicked him out, he's yet to probably find his own place. Although, at one point she goes, well, he might keep his own place for a while, and I'm like, but he doesn't have his own place, he's staying in a hotel.
Yeah.
So it's sort of weird. Unless it's one of those things that used to be a hotel and is now an apartment building. Hence why there was a doorman downstairs and not a check-in desk. I don't know.
Could have been a check-in desk. Could have been. It doesn't really matter.
Who knows?
It doesn't really matter.
So yeah, that's a big one. But basically, he's a floppy-haired twat who weirdly, and we do, like the other thing that's odd about this movie, and I kind of want to get into like the movie making aspect of it rather than trying to like drill down and overanalyze everything. But like,
you don't want to drill down into the tits.
No. The whole Breast
Farrago.
Which does sound... Breast Farrago sounds like it could be a Latin American, singer, crooner.
Breast Farrago.
Breast Farrago and his mariachi...
Please welcome Breast Farrago.
Whatever. Anyway. He plays maracas. He plays maracas. I play maracas and I sing a song for the ladies.
I am Breast Farrago.
Breast Farrago singing a song for the ladies. When he wiggled his maracas next to me. So anyway, there's an odd thing in the movie that it is unconcerned with time, meaning no idea how long they've been living together.
No.
It seems odd that they've been living together for enough time for them to be living together and talking about engagement and blah 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 blah, but his ex-wife is still calling him and he still has like business with his ex-wife.
Right.
I mean, I get it, like having been through one, divorces and separation stretch
she's
out.
only just arrived in the city as well, because
she says I've not been in New York long.
Yeah, and also
you
like
sort of think
her
that
business thing is her first client.
Right, and you sort of think that it's his place because she's like talking about he says, "Oh, I met you in New York," and blah 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 blah. But then you find out it's her. It's very like it's.
Yeah, she gets an apartment in a legal settlement, which I don't know.
Yeah, I don't understand how that happens either because. Okay, so let's delve into this now.
Okay.
Very quickly, because there are some glaring plot points. First of all, in the movie-making scheme of things, all the exposition is... This movie is like 90% action, or not action as in like action movie, but like
people
as
doing
in
things.
Stuff happening. And like 10%, maybe not even 10%, maybe 5% exposition. And the exposition happens in the most convenient ways possible. So, she has a meeting at the beginning of the movie with Stephen Tobolowski, right? The wonderful. And
the magnificent.
The magnificent. But also in this movie, slightly sleazy and deranged.
Definitely.
I can't help that Spader would have...
Spader would have done a magnificent job. But only like today's Spader.
Today, oh yeah, no, it would have had to have been older, fatter, balder Spader, definitely. Because Tobolowski has a wonderfully bald cranium with mad side hair.
He is balding the sleeves all over the place. Thank you very much.
That one's mine. Thank you. Oh, that's fun.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So just pancakes then.
So he
really
said in his discussion with her, there's your syrup.
I was thinking of butter actually.
No butter.
Maybe I don't have butter. It's fine. Maybe I don't have butter with griddle cakes.
Do you want butter?
No. I'm happy to have it the way that they're serving it.
So,
These are some sorry liquors.
he says in the meeting, very quickly, he's like, "Oh, I looked up on you. I looked into you, and found out here convenient character information that we've crowbarred literally into one sentence. The exposition of her entire character is in one sentence, which is that she has some fashion software that is very early kind of 90s computer stuff, which basically puts different clothes on a digital mannequin. It's not really important. That he
as far as I can tell, useful.
Or
also,
useful.
she appears to be in charge of his accounts.
Right.
Which I didn't. Actually, I could I just say one quick thing on the particular subject. Can I admit?
The half the time you didn't know what was going on.
No. To a certain amount of admiration for the exposition in the opening scene. When she's lying in bed, and they establish...
They do a lot of lying in bed with like blue light through a chiffon curtain.
But they're sitting there, and in the space of like 2 minutes, we find out who she is, who he is, what the relationship is, how long like they've been in New York together, what this apartment is, like what her business is. In fact,
No, you don't find out her business until later.
Often. But the point is, in a very short space of time, in a reasonably believable way, they get all this exposition out.
Right. Well,
I was just like,
the movie doesn't
open up
build.
a movie like that.
The movie just starts.
Yes, it does. Which I quite liked.
Yeah, and it started a little like a play.
Yeah.
It doesn't read to me like a movie. It started very much
weird,
like a play.
It's based on a novel too. Because if it had been based on a play, I wouldn't have been very surprised.
Right, because it was very highly stylized, like a play might be.
Yeah, or one location.
And you could definitely do this as a play.
Yeah.
So,
just very quick. Sorry, just very quick. I was genuinely surprised, not only by how much I enjoyed it, but I did genuinely think it was well directed. And
yeah, it is.
The Schroeder bloke who does this, like the other things of his that I've seen.
And he made Barfly, which is which is based on the writings of Charles Bukowski, which is another set in one or two locations, very theatrical looking sets, and is pretty much a sort of one or two hander between Mickey Rourke and Faye Dunaway in that movie, I think. I think so.
But either way, it was the way it was paced, the way it was shot, the music, what it was saying, the little moments happen.
Oh yeah,
the way that it all built up. I just thought it was,
It's not a bad movie. It has an issue with pacing.
Yeah.
It has an issue with, in my mind, like convenient exposition.
Yeah.
And it is, very, very 90s. You know what I mean?
It is exceptionally 90s.
Especially the bit where for no apparent reason, she goes to like an underground
the
sex
club.
den.
Well, because she's pretending to be her, right?
No, I get that, but she goes to an underground sex den, but then just sits at the bar and has a drink.
Yeah, I have to say, that was I guess they wanted to up the weirdness factor. Like, you want to have like a bunch of things discovered about her. There's a point when Bridget Fonda's sitting with the gay bloke, like describing like all the weird things about Jennifer Jason Leigh, and she goes, and then I found out she's been lying to me. Like, her twin didn't die at birth. Actually, the twin died when she was 9. And I felt like, well, if I was the gay bloke, I go, so fucking what?
Right.
Like, give the girl a break. If she wants to pretend that the girl she lost when she was 9, that's, when she first met you, let's let her have that one. There's actually very few, there's just a feeling that something's not right.
Right, but that's my other point, is that everything we find out about Jennifer Jason Leigh is revealed in a hastily looked through a shoebox with this idea that, well, because I'm a psycho, I must carry around a shoebox that explains my psychotic tendencies.
But didn't she just want to talk to anybody, or
no? And then there's a lot of stuff at the opening, like, oh yeah, this elevator's broken, so we use this handily, like, chained-on screwdriver to fix it. And oh look, we can hear everything that's going on in the apartment because of these vents.
Yeah, but to be fair, take the screwdriver example, right? What I liked about the screwdriver example, I thought the same thing as you. Oh, that screwdriver is going to make an appearance.
Right.
And it did. When Bridget Fonda is being strangled,
right,
and she's reaching for the screwdriver, so it's all like it's going exactly as Hollywood would plan. Right. Right at the moment she's about to die, she grabs a screwdriver that we told you about at the beginning of the movie,
right,
and fights off Leigh. But instead, she can't reach the screwdriver.
Right.
And to all intents and purposes, as far as the audience are concerned at that point, dies.
Right.
And that screwdriver never comes back. So the screwdriver only exists. No, because she's in the bloody tool room.
That's what she stabs. She stabs her with the screwdriver at the end.
Oh, okay. But it could have been a screwdriver from the tool room. There's like plenty of tools knocking
but it's
around.
Not. It's the big black one with the big black handle.
But my point is that the actual effect of having the, that like, the thing that was there earlier is actually to underline the fact that she really is dead. So it's a clever use of that trope, is all I'm saying.
No, I get it. No, it's not. Look, it's not.
Well, it did get really hot.
It's not an unintelligent movie. Right?
I was expecting it to be proper,
and it's entertaining. It's too slow and too drawn out for my particular.
No, I would agree with that.
I prefer something a little pacier. I also think that if you're going to do the Hitchcock thing, go balls to the wall with the fucking music. The music was a little.
Well, I quite liked the music.
It was all right, but like, first of all, the first 2/3 of the movie there is no music, and then by the time there is any music, it's trying to do that annoying. Well, I don't want to do the boom boom, it's a thriller by the way music, so let's just try and do something that's a little bit more subtle and a little bit more whatever. And I'm like, just give me the boom boom, because that's kind of what this movie needs.
An alternative subtitle for the podcast episode could be just give me the boom boom. If you weren't, I'm just saying, it's out there. No, I agree, but I found it, I thought it was quite
just Olay, it's Breast Farrago. Just give me the boom boom.
Just give me the boom boom, Breast Farrago. Look, I agree with you about the pacing. It was too slow.
It wasn't slow. I never got bored. It felt drawn out. Like, it felt like once you find out who she was and what she was doing, like there was then like a whole other section of the movie where
sort of felt,
they were not talking about it, but they were talking about it, and then they weren't talking about it, and then
a lot of that, like Jennifer Jason Leigh, the twin and all that, seemed to me to be like irrelevant, frankly. And the more interesting dynamic between Jennifer Jason Leigh and Bridget Fonda was not, oh, you're my missing twin that I get to whatever. The more interesting dynamic was, I'm ugly and plain and nobody looks at me. Those are the bits. The heartbreaking bit was when the dog is scratching at the door after Bridget Fonda leaves, and Jennifer Jason Leigh goes, come here boy, I know, I understand. And the dog just keeps pawing at the door as if Jennifer Jason Leigh isn't even there.
Right.
And she's like, fine. But it's like, that's her whole life, is like being ignored and taken for granted and invisible next to a more attractive woman or whatever.
I honestly feel that is something that the director chappie and the two women and maybe the screenwriter and whatever, like, hashed out more of that. And then she was also a twin and blah, 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 was sort of kept in to kind of appease.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Either the studio and or someone who probably went, yeah, but here's the twin thing for stupid people.
If you, I would be interested if you cut the beginning bit.
Right.
If you cut out the shoebox bit and you cut out the ending.
Yeah.
Whether it wouldn't be like a more interesting movie, because then it would be about, like you're saying, questions of identity and femininity and what does it mean to be a plain girl, right next to a much more attractive girl, and maybe you wouldn't want to be. I mean, it's so much. It seemed to be about wanting to be Bridget Fonda. Here's Bridget Fonda wandering around feeling sorry for herself. Oh, my boyfriend cheated on me. That thing that good-looking people do when they wander around. Just like.
Well, he did cheat on her. I mean, that's a bit.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
she had every reason to be pissed off.
I'm not saying she didn't. I'm just saying when good-looking people wander around with the problems of
good-looking people, right? Yeah.
With the problems of my perfect boyfriend cheated on me, and and now I get to be melancholy about it, or whatever. I'm not saying that's not true or real. Right. I'm saying when you're an ugly outside person, you fucking kill for those problems, because they feel real, and all you are is ignored and isolated.
Right.
I'm just saying that was the more interesting dynamic for me, rather than the, I better live out some weird, like not even explained childhood trauma.
Right.
But it's just that, like you're saying, it's like 90s tendency to, we better have something in the script that explains why she's a loony.
Yeah, it's
like people will leave the theatre go with their monocles falling out, going, I say, they never told us why she was a loony. I don't want to have to think about it. They gave me the tits, but they didn't say anything about thinking.
When I see tits, my brain immediately switches off.
Yeah.
I cannot be expected to both look at tits and think at the same time. No, I think
that was a genuine comment on an audience feedback card at a test screening.
Yeah, it was, yeah, definitely. Some eager, 21-year-old party planner type being like, okay, so let's go through the cards, shall we? So, did the nudity bother anybody? I think guys put up his hand. Let me explain something to you about men. I can't be expected.
But it was, it was good. And you're right, they don't make movies like that anymore.
No.
Where there's that much time. There's no if they made that now, then it would turn out that Jennifer Jason Leigh was really a ghost of a magician's assistant, who died 50 years ago or whatever.
And the magician was part robot and trying to take over the planet.
That's more of a 70s feel, I think.
And Benedict Cumberbatch and fucking Tom Hiddleston had to waft about being wafted.
Yeah, I don't get the Tom Hiddleston thing.
Or the
It's over my head.
The two of them, I think if they ever appear in a movie together, and they may have already done it, but I imagine that there's some sort of wafty time hole full of ennui and tedium opens up.
Probably.
And we all just kind of drift off into it.
I don't get it. I don't get this obsession. I still don't get Craig as Bond, frankly. And I know for a fact that whoever they choose as the next James Bond, I'm not going to get it.
No, I don't get it. And the funny thing is people go, well, that's because you're getting older. People always love the stuff that they like growing up, blah, 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 blah. And you go, yeah, but this isn't about me standing there going, will you turn down your loud guitar music? It's not that. It's me going, look, I've watched movies. I know what things should be. And Craig isn't Bond. He's awful. He's like a pob-faced swimwear model twatting about being miserable.
Casino Royale was like a test screened, marketed to death. I couldn't watch it without seeing a bunch of marketing people going, we're so pleased with how gritty. It's a gritty reboot.
Right.
It was so phony. I quite enjoyed Quantum of Solace, although not the second time I watched it, because it was at least it was we're just going to make an action film, right? Is that all right? We're going to make an action film.
Who was it who said this about James Bond? Who was it who said this? Fuck, what was I watching the other day and someone made a comment?
I don't know. Tell me what the
He
comment
was like, just for a minute, do you know what I don't understand? I don't understand James Bond. He's like, he's got a license to kill, he can shag any woman he wants, and whatever the third thing is, gets to drive around in fast sports cars. It's like, why all the misery? It was on, I think it was on a Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, one of those. I think it was like, I don't think Seinfeld said it, I think someone else said it. Norm Macdonald, I think.
Okay.
He was like, I don't get it. Why all the misery?
There are some things that you shouldn't be, glum about. But then, okay, so here's my question, right? If things are a product of their era, right? Take, the 70s, there's a lot of, there's paranoia, governments can't be trusted,
right?
Everyone's listening, we're all fucked, this means nothing, all the darkness is coming to get us now.
Right.
And the 80s is like, money is great, and colours and cars, and even like, and just like life is great. Like it's, it's kind of a shallow thing, but like Beverly Hills Cop and all those movies are all like, people are like running around and they're like having a fucking blast. Even the criminals and everyone is like having a ball about being alive. Yeah. Even though it's kind of dirty and grimy and whatever, it's still, it's life. So in the 90s, with the whole home invasion thing and the single white female, which seems to me to be like, hello, I might look normal, but actually I'm insane, I'm going to kill you.
Do you want to know what it is?
Yes.
It's the rise of two things.
Okay.
First of all the people who have made their money in the 80s, the yuppies, now want to like keep it and are fearful of anyone coming to get what's theirs, get their stuff.
Interesting.
Right? And that could, because they know deep down inside them that they had to like step on a few necks to get it, they're constantly looking behind them who's going to come step on their neck to get theirs. Right? We've talked before.
Because this was a recession. I mean, 90s was, for the first 5 or 6 years anyway, a big recession.
Right, but we've talked before, right, about how CEOs and upper management and all those people we have to deal with every day, right, are paranoid. Like, they're constantly panicked and constantly fearful and paranoid because, like, well, wait a minute, if something goes wrong, is it my fault? Like, can I blame Johnson? Is Johnson trying to come for my job? Like, this is the thing.
So the rise of, like, middle management, basically.
Right. So there's all that fear going on within the yuppie mind. But the other thing is... what was the other thing?
I don't know. It was good though. I was.
Damn it! I had two things.
Well, I tell you what, because you often think of it while I'm talking.
It's because I'm not listening to you.
Right, precisely. I wonder whether because I really like the yuppie thing, but whether it's also because after a big explosion of corporations in America, where all of a sudden you have like a huge middle management class. Because everybody that I know or I've worked with over my life, who is like paranoid and freaking out all the time about things going wrong and then losing their job and then losing everything, are just middle managers. They're not the people at the top. They're like the middle managers who've like been given responsibility they've never had before, and they're basically told, well, the company will fall down if you don't get your job right. And there's suddenly, I don't know, millions of these people raised out of coming out of college or whatever, and all of a sudden it's like middle management jobs. There's all these now big established corporations, this money, the stock market, all of the benefits of the 80s. Yeah, there's a recession, but there's still big fucking companies. And I wonder whether that's not it. If it's not playing into that particular paranoia for the first time, where people are understanding like what being a manager is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go too far into it. My feeling is that...
I like your thing, though.
My feeling is that if there is any kind of underlying trend of these kind of 90s thrillers, is that it's not the fear of
the
other. It's the fear of ourselves and the people we've surrounded ourselves with. And
there is often a doppelgangery thing going on in those movies too. At least it's not in looks, but in they have similar jobs. They look the same. They dress them with the same social. You know what I mean? They're separated by nothing really. That's same upbringing.
So I wonder if it's that I've not been able to remember what my second thing was, and that is kind of killing me.
I've remembered what it is, and I thought I'd stick it in post, as they say. It was some sort of phlegm gumptionry about the whole rise in the 90s of the inner you and the inner child and psychotherapy and psychology and all that sort of stuff kind of becoming mainstream for the first time. So there was a lot of that sort of the inner child and, talk about your feelings and everyone becoming more sensitive and stuff like that. So I wondered if that and the yuppie thing and the 90s thing and all that sort of stuff, whether that played into it as well. There must be a reason why there was like a rise of thrillers at that time. And so maybe it was to do with that, the sort of fear of self, but also fear of others and paranoia and psychology and all that kind of stuff that's played out by the rise of therapy and self-help books. Anyway, back to the show. There's certainly the beginning of the, certainly in this movie anyway, the kind of money disparity, the haves and the have-nots and that kind of thing going on. I think this one in particular is far more about. I think it's far more about femininity and female friendships and things like that than it is, and like I say, and you said quite right, like body identity, fashion. Like I think the fact that she's a fashion designer, and the first time you see them together is shopping for clothes. I think that's speaking to a certain thing as well.
Fear of not dressing right.
Well, identity and all the rest of it, and
I guess of not knowing how to dress, of not knowing how to fit in.
Right, I still have that feeling where I know I want to say something I can't say it, so kind of everything I'm saying is kind of frustrating me. But yeah, I think we've got in there somewhere. I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting because I was thinking that before.
The After Movie Diner with Jon Cross will return right after this.
We'll do it live. F*** it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Hi, I'm Jay Mayo.
And I'm Marie.
Shut up.
I'm Marie.
Shut up.
I'm Marie Forster.
And we are co-hosts of Hold the Mayo podcast.
Hold the mayo.
Hold the mayo. All right, give me ham on 5. Hold the mayo.
We're two local comedians, and here on Hold the Mayo, we talk about all the different things that are going on in our daily lives.
Or in your case, your pathetic dating life.
Or in your case, your obsession with pizza.
Or in your case, your Gatham for Statham.
Yeah? Well, at least I'm not obsessed with Guy Fieri.
At least I'm a gang leader.
No, you're not. You're just always trying to overthrow invisible gangs.
No, I'm cool in the gang.
No, oh my God, the puns are the worst.
Mayonnaise, really? That stuff is for sandwiches.
Listen, you guys can find us all across the internet. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and everywhere else that podcast can be found. You can also find us all across social media. We're on Twitter at Hold the Mayo Pod, Instagram at Hold the Mayo Podcast, and of course, we have a Facebook fan page, facebook.com/Hold the Mayo Podcast.
Don't forget, you can also find Jay crying on his couch every single night.
Thank you so much.
F***ing thing sucks.
And just end it with a fart.
What is the Potter family? Hi, I'm Gareth.
I'm Bix.
And we're from the Gareth's Random Rambling Podcast.
This is Jason from the 3 Is Comedy Podcast.
This is Adam from Everyone Has a Podcast.
This is Michael Vasquez of the No Soundbites Allowed podcast.
This is Eric Mocker from the Mockers Podcast.
Hey, this is Rick from Ice and the Face.
This is Nick from the Epic Film Guys podcast.
This is Turbo from the Turbo Cast.
This is Matthew McDonough from the Passersby podcast.
This is Cyanide from the Little Geek Lost podcast.
This is Paul from the Countdown Movie and TV Reviews podcast.
This is Daniel from the Toe on the Trigger podcast.
This is Matt Pierce from the Crossover podcast.
Hey guys, it's Rad Dad Chad,
Jay Mills, and Lil Man
from the Full of Fiber podcast.
Hey y'all. It's Juliette Miranda from the Unwritable Rant podcast.
This is Knock from the Geek Over podcast.
This is Gareth from the Open All Powers podcast.
This is Octopus Caveman.
And this is the Green Korean
from the Dave podcast.
We're Josh and David from the Scotch and Flicks podcast.
This is Greg from the Sports Stance podcast.
Hey, this is Bro from the World of Row podcast.
We are you, podcasters coming together in a community to help one another grow. So follow us on Twitter at Podern Family and use the hashtag Podern Family in your tweets and retweet other people who do the same. Podern Family, where great podcasts come home.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling.
I don't necessarily know if I can look at a film from, say, I don't know, 2010 and go, oh yeah, well that's a product of like, what, you know, this is what's going on in society. But I feel like now we're far enough away from the 90s where we're going to go back and go, yeah, what the fuck was going on with the 90s? What was that all about? Because on the one hand, I remember it quite fondly. Like there was a lot of good art, there was a lot of good music, and there seemed to be like a cautious feeling of like hope and optimism that maybe we might sort this mess out.
But there was
at the
also
same time,
like
there was a recession.
But the big movies of
people in charge were like fucking arseholes.
The big movies of the 90s, though, that have lived on, kind of thing, are like the Scream franchise, like the sort of the re-emergence of the like ironic slasher or whatever, and the rip-offs that came from that one. Are things like you said, like Independence Day and Jurassic Park and a couple of those big blockbusters. But then you also have the indie wave, which is your Pulp Fictions, your Reservoir Dogs, your Clerks, your Slacker. There was a trailer for Slacker tonight. Richard Linklater, all those kind of movies.
All those things.
Robert Rodriguez.
The indies and the blockbusters all had one thing in common, which is a growing shared.
Well, there were genre films as well.
No. I'm being more specific now. A growing shared cultural language. In other words, we're all expected to, like, we laugh and scream because we all know the rules of the horror films. You know, we laugh at or enjoy Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs because of, like, even if we don't fully understand the references, we get that they're in there, that they're packed in there, and we
get that it's
joy from it.
We get that it is taking a genre and doing something slightly different with it, even if someone had done it before.
But it's more like there's a joy in recognising that we all
get it. Yeah, we're all in on the joke.
And I feel like that was the thing in the 90s, like with Scream particularly, that idea of...
And even in Independence Day, although they don't like reference it necessarily. Well, no, he does say about E.T. Doesn't he? Like I just punched E.T. in the face or something.
Oh yeah.
But I tell you what it is. The people in movies in the 90s live in a world in which movies exist. Whereas, and that only slowly starts to happen throughout the 80s. In movies in the 60s and 70s, while they might be commenting on a genre, they don't live in a world in which other movies exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not sat there referencing whatever it is, left, right, and centre. And I feel that there are probably a bunch of 80s comedies that I can't think of off the top of my head, but will probably reference movies that have come before. And I don't mean like redo them. I mean in the language, in the dialogue.
Yeah.
But certainly by the time Quentin Tarantino and Kevin Smith start doing it, it becomes and Scream, Kevin Williamson, it becomes just a rigor to do it in
right. But I think that speaks to a certain. Like, I found that at the time very comforting. Like this idea that the things that I cared about, that I thought were cool, are like not only cool to other people, but are like important and cool to everybody, and that we're all to know these things. Is, I don't know, gives you some kind of like you haven't just wasted your time watching movies and learning about music and becoming obsessed about Star Trek or whatever.
Right.
Like, you haven't wasted your time. You've gained some kind of cultural knowledge that allows you to like live in the world.
And I think that the people who are listening to whether it's grunge in the States or Britpop in the UK and watching movies by those indie filmmakers at the time, or the Miramax crew at the time, are probably a different audience than the ones who are sitting down to watch Single White Female. And while as a filmmaker, as a film watcher in the 90s, I was readily aware of Single White Female being out, and I may have even like seen bits of it.
It didn't strike me as kind of as a weird chick flick.
It was a huge rental, though. It was a huge rental, and yes, you see the front cover. And you go, well, even if it is a thriller, and even if there are norks in it, it's probably a woman's film. And I was, I was like 16, 17, so I'm like, it's probably for birds. And I probably just watched it, on a friend's VHS or something. But like that, and like I say, Goldie Hawn Deceived and Unlawful Entry, and What are the other ones that he mentioned at the beginning of the movie?
The terrible
Pacific Heights,
Pacific Heights,
which we actually watched and covered for the show, which is awful. All of them, and even like Sliver and Basic Instinct and stuff, which got most of the column inches because of all the sex and violence in them. They're all mostly awful. I mean, they're fun to watch, but they're all sort of mostly awful.
Yeah.
They're not
a particularly good one off the top of my head.
I feel like they're a genre that could be enjoyed, like, ironically, which I don't like to do.
No, I find myself sometimes having a perverse ability to enjoy like very specific genres. You know what I mean?
No, don't get me wrong.
And I can see how there's a world where he goes, for some reason,
right?
I really like.
Totally, and
invasion movies.
I love, if I'm going to pick a horror genre, like, I love slasher films. It doesn't matter how bad and crappy they are. It doesn't matter if it's a Robicide or Fatal Games or whatever. Like, I like those slasher films. I can watch them.
John Darnielle plays the same way. Like,
endlessly.
He only wants to watch films unless there's a guy in a mask with a knife hacking up teenagers. He's not interested.
Right. And I like them for whatever reason. And there is a part of me, don't get me wrong, that likes these 90s thrillers. Like, there was... So when Amazon and everything else, and then, and torrenting and various and streaming and various other things, one of the films that I'm sad hasn't got, like, its moment in the spotlight, it is, weirdly enough, Goldie Hawn's Deceived. I don't know why. It's one that I watched, I think my mum rented it or something when we were, like, teenagers. I remember watching it and going... pretty fun, actually. I mean, it's mostly bollocks, but it's pretty fun.
Yeah, but there is something to be said.
And I was just like, I wish I had it. Like, I wish I had the VHS of Goldie Hawn's Deceived. I don't know why, but I wish I did. And, one day it'll have its moment in the sun. But right now, it doesn't. But I feel like Single White Female, I don't know whether I can recommend it. I don't know whether I can go, yeah, track this one down. It's better than you thought it was, because it's not really. But there's a lot to it.
I have to say, it was better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be, like, forgettable, by the numbers, 1, 2, 3, like,
Right.
But bird moves in, bird starts dressing like other bird goes crazy, other bird kills crazy bird at the end.
Right.
Which is what happened.
It is what happened.
It is what happened.
It is what happened.
But I thought I did have sympathy for Jennifer Jason Leigh, but only not in the bits where she was killing animals.
No, I get it.
In the bits where she felt alienated from
it's horribly
world,
underwritten, because, like, in reality, if you, for example, if you had shown up tonight and I had shaved my head and shaved my face and was wearing whatever that shirt is, you'd be a little, like, you wouldn't let it go. You wouldn't be like, well, blah. You'd be like,
yeah, but to
okay,
be fair,
what are you doing and what's going on?
At that point, and I think it got this bit right in terms of the pacing. She already knew something was up. This was, I think, right after the boss to Bobrovsky tried to
rape her, yeah. Which also was a wholly unnecessary bit of side plot.
Well, because I thought it was going to be like a deeply objectionable, misogynistic ending to the film,
right?
Where Jennifer Jason Leigh was going to be like saved from the murderous lesbian by, like, her male rapist, and I thought that would be.
You mean Bridget Fonda was going to be saved?
Yeah, was going to be saved by her rapist,
right,
from a murderous lesbian.
Yeah,
and, like, just I'm not. I don't.
And I think you're making a slight stretch that she was a lesbian.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that you can see it that way. Save me from the lesbian, even though you're a rapist. At least you're a man, kind of thing, kind of vibe.
Right.
But I quite like that. Tobolowsky was like dismissed Jennifer Jason Leigh and then got knocked over the back of the head. And then I was going, so what's going to happen to? Oh, she's put a cushion over his head and shot him.
Yeah.
I found that quite pleasing.
Right.
Because there was an element of when Jennifer Jason Leigh says to her, I've helped you out. There's like, well, yeah, you shot her rapist in the head, and to some extent.
Wait, but then, okay.
That was an act of love.
But you could take, talking about things that could be completely taken out of this movie.
Right.
Tobolowsky could be completely taken out of this movie. Because what happens with Tobolowsky? All Tobolowsky does is establishes that she is a fashion thing, which doesn't need to be established. And lastly, is one of many people who can hilariously, in a near farcical style, almost be the one to save her. Like I felt like there was like a million people going into that apartment and constantly being dispatched. There wasn't. There was only like a couple. But like even so, it was, especially the way that like Tobolowsky goes, but wait a minute, that's her suitcase. And the moment he hears mumbling from inside, instead of doing anything, instead of like thinking about it or saying something, whatever, he literally just grabs Jennifer Jason Leigh, flings her out the way, and bounds into the apartment. Like it got a bit stupid.
Well, but no,
you know what I mean?
no,
and then there's all this business with, we've got to go to LA, and then she's trying to write on the internet, you know, and then that doesn't work, and then the gay guy's secretly still awake in the bathtub, and then it was like, all right, enough already. Like someone here. Then they go down to the basement, and there's 20 more minutes of twatting around, and I'm like, well, someone just club her around the face with a heavy object.
Because okay, all right. In its defence, and I'm not saying it was like well done or anything, but in its defence, the Stephen Tobolowsky thing made sense because the trajectory of that was he was made furious by like her fucking up his computer system, and he comes around. He knows that she's in this apartment, and there's this bird with her suitcase, so she does know. And she hears furious. She's in there.
He knows because she was cat sitting, and she gave him the number. Like all this extraneous detail, cat sitting with the gay guy upstairs.
No, I
agree. Like all this.
I agree.
The only thing.
No, wait. I'm not. In its defence, leaving aside the Tobolowsky thing. Although personally, I think Tobolowsky was all worth it.
No, I'll tell you why.
Nearly being saved by a rapist, but then seeing the woman shooting the rapist.
No, there's another reason why he's in it.
Okay, sure. But what I'm saying is, from Bridget, from Fonda's point of view, it's like, on the one hand, obviously she wants to be like saved, but equally, seeing the guy that tried to rape her being shot in the head must have felt like a little bit good. So there's an interesting thing going on there. Anyway,
Can I one more thing on Tobolowsky?
Okay, right.
The reason why he's in it?
Why?
Right up until the end, she has to seem like a victim.
Yeah, okay, but that's actually wait.
So hang on a second.
But that's where I was going.
Even though she turns around and knees Tobolowsky and runs out of there, which totally, absolutely fine. Any like follow-up and recourse and repercussion to that, she gives up on. Like she's like, oh, he's going to trash my name all over town, and that's it. I'm back to square one, and he was my meal ticket, and blah 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 blah. And it's Jennifer Jason Leigh who like calls him up in the dead of night and is like, if you do anything wrong or if you say anything wrong, like I'm coming after you and your family and blah blah blah. And that plays into Jennifer Jason Leigh like soliloquy at the end about like how I've helped you and how I'm the strong one and I've never met anyone who's so afraid to be alone, and all these opinions Jennifer Jason Leigh has about Bridget Fonda, and the whole point of it is you've underestimated me because look at me, better you in the end, kind of thing.
Right, but that's what I mean. Like I think all that stuff is, she's supposed to be like, I'm good with computers, so I'm going to use the computer to try and save myself. And in the end, that gets turned against her. Right. And that was quite a neat scene where Jennifer Jason Leigh's like doing a monologue about how I don't deserve to die, and she's got a demon, and then she's just dictating a suicide. And it was a nice little gag. But in other words, Jennifer Jason Leigh turns the fact that she's good at computers against her by making her write a suicide. There's all these things that like Bridget Fonda tries, like turning up the computer, turning up the volume, and then the people come in, and Tobolowsky, coming in, and whatever. The point is, and being like the damsel in distress, like literally, like, almost literally untied from the train tracks.
Right.
And she goes through all of these roles, like you say, like victim, or like, oh, I'm going to use my, computer skills or whatever. And in the end, she defeats Jennifer Jason Leigh by like turning her fear against Jason Leigh. So Jason Leigh has obviously at this point operated on scaring the crap out of Bridget Fonda, and presumably has scared a lot of people in her life, and therefore presumably manipulated circumstances around her to some extent, using this weapon of, well, I may be mousy and I may be plain and people may ignore me, but once I start scaring the crap out of them, it all changes, and I can to some extent get my way. It's a twisted, fucked up way, but it's a way.
No, I get it.
So she had to go through all that. And I'm not saying it was like well done, but I feel like it did have to be there so that when she, throws the rat on her and hides from her and jumps on her and all that, and like Batman's her at the end and all the rest of it, there's an element of not just empowerment, but also Ready for the cake yet or not yet? Learning, as it were, to turn. I don't know. I guess to turn her own fear and use it as a weapon. We are all done. Yes. We're all sorry. It was very, very nice. It's just too many. Want anything else? I think it was check.
Yeah,
right?
just the check is fine.
Thanks, the check. Thank you very much.
No, so there's also this interesting voiceover at the end of it, which initially is a little like, oh, wait a minute, we have to wrap this up and put a bow on it.
Well, that's kind of what I felt.
Right. But now I think
wrong.
about it. No, well, now I think about it, based on the discussion we've had, there is a little, and especially based on the whole idea of, because at the end she's talking about Jennifer Jason Leigh's problem was that she could never forgive herself for the death of her sister.
Right.
And that must have been an absolutely unbearable burden to live with this whole time, and blah, 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 blah. And so I'm trying really hard not to blame her for Sam, her fiance who she killed. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm trying to like find myself and so on and so forth. I think, and again, it would be so much better almost to be talking to a woman about this movie, because I really think that there is something in the female experience in this film. And one of the reasons why Tom Wallowski is in there as the rapist boss, and one of the reasons why there's the cad who still like occasionally sleeps with his ex-wife, and also why there's like the gay best friend to some extent. I think these are all, they're all cliches, but they're all things that I think women, certainly at the time, probably, but definitely now, still deal with, or still experience, or still know about. So there is a certain thing where throughout the movie, if you take out Jennifer Jason Leigh for the moment and you just look at the Bridget Fonda character, there's a certain thing where that character is having to speak to all women to some extent. And Jennifer Jason Leigh's character is also speaking to all women as well. And the reason why the film ends with like the picture that is one half her face and one half
was pretty good.
Other face.
That was pretty cool.
Is I think it's something along the lines of trying to say that actually, if truth be told, we're all a little bit of both those people. And most women have, or most people have, some element of both those people within them.
Yeah, I like
just
that.
so happens to be women in this film. We all go through experiences, whether it's this boss or whether it's the husband or whatever, and we're all just trying to kind of like figure this stuff out. And if we don't deal with the issues as they come along, they'll hang about and they'll change us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you too. Thanks.
They'll hang about. If we don't deal with the problems as they arise, they'll hang about and they'll change us. There's something going on in all of that. There's some thing.
You're right. I was the wrong person to go see this film. Should have gone and seen it with a lady.
No, I'm just saying because I would welcome. Like, I really hope we get some emails or some feedback or some comments or something, because I really would be interested to sort of hear that perspective on the movie, because I feel like while we can watch it, and I think we're fairly well-rounded and observational, a gentleman of the
Certainly
world,
in shape,
despite all the bosom talk.
I was going to say, I'm not sure the women would have made it past me going, oh, checks.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I apologise, ladies.
But I think that we're fairly empathetic and understanding to some extent, or certainly recognise some of the ills of the world, let's just say. So therefore, we did get a lot out of this movie as well. But I do feel that if this movie is speaking to anyone, it's speaking to the female audience.
Yeah,
as a whole.
I would go along with that.
Both in the 90s, but also now. Like, I don't feel like, yes, there were aspects of it that were incredibly 90s. You know what I mean? Like the Sex Club with that same old song that's in, I think, every single one of
that was weird.
movies.
Enigma. It was Enigma. Sex Club.
Of course it is, because Enigma, Sex Club goes together. The clothing was obviously very 90s. But I feel beyond that, it was a fairly universal story. There wasn't anything in it that struck me as like, oh, isn't that laughably 90s?
If you remade it today, you wouldn't have to
change it.
that much. But I don't know, maybe something with the phones. I don't know whether it was one of those phones that would be affected by.
Oh, because they had answer machines and phones and stuff.
Yeah,
and at the beginning, she heard the wife disclaim that she had had sex with her fiance over the answer machine. But
you could have done that with a text. I mean, it was so. Like, he was bound to get caught. Like, if she's calling him up, going, oh, I thought you.
Like 2 a.m. or whatever it was. So I don't know. Like, there's a lot in there. It's fairly interesting, and there's a lot to talk about, and yet. Weirdly enough, and it's well directed, well lit, very, very thoughtfully shot. Like, even with the nudity, there are a lot of sequences where the people are in shadow.
Yeah, there's bits when Jason Leigh was proper.
They're
right
in
at the
silhouetted or in shadow.
Right at the beginning, she's filmed in this quite creepy way because of the shadow.
Not Jennifer Jason Leigh, Bridget Fonda, when she got up to walk out.
No, I'm sorry, I meant when Jennifer Jason Leigh's like talking in.
And then later, when Bridget Fonda's getting changed, she's about to go upstairs in her nightgown, and Jennifer Jason is like, "You're not going to go up like that, are you?" So then we go into Bridget Fonda's room, and she changes into clothes, but she does it completely in dead black silhouette, which again I feel was like really conscious, really well thought out, really. Like, there's an eye to it, a good cinematographer, a good whatever. And yet, weirdly for me, it's not one that I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to revisit that.
Yeah,
anytime soon.
I agree.
So it's a weird one.
I'm glad I saw it.
Right.
And I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. And I definitely, like you say, I definitely got things out of it, and it made me think about the era, and it made me think about, ladies and what they have to go through, and it made me think about. Me as a bloke, I guess, to some extent, but not all that much. I do enough of that. But, yeah, I know what you mean, and I'm not sure that all of that necessarily added up to, like, a fun film or a good film that I would say to people, yeah, you should watch Single White Female. I feel like if someone goes, oh, I've broken my leg, and I'm in hospital, and the TV's only got one channel, and Single White Female's about to start, I'd go, yeah, you could do worse.
Give it a go, yeah.
So,
it feels
don't
to me
turn
like
it off and have a snooze.
I've not seen Beaches all the way through, but it feels to me like the anti-Beaches.
Yeah.
It's kind of the antithesis of those kind of films. But then maybe in Beaches they get into an argument as well. I don't know. Not seen it. I get the feeling that
I agree, though. I would, if there are female viewers or listeners to the diner, and I don't know if there are, but if there are...
It's about 35% of our listening audience are female.
Well, if 35%, write in and say what they got out to see what female, I'd be genuinely really interested to know. And I'm going to ask Teresa, because I don't know if she's seen it or not. I might ask her. I would like to know, because I do think it was... It did make me think, but sometimes there are movies that I enjoy. I tell you what I think, right? Sometimes there are movies I'm sitting there going, I'm enjoying this is quite fun, but it's also kind of not really for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not made for me, it's not speaking to me
Here's the explanation.
And that way...
Here's the explanation. We can both sit there and analyse it intellectually. So it can hit us on a mental level where totally understand where this is coming from. We've both had female friends explain to us about what they go through and how they feel on a daily basis and yada, yada, yada. We've read stories about bosses in that regard. We've experienced men who are like that fiance, husband guy, or whatever it is. Or we can put ourselves in that position or whatever it is, but we are well aware of the things intellectually.
Yeah, but not at
But there is no, and there doesn't have to be in a movie, but there was no audience surrogate for us.
Yes, good point.
In the film.
That's a good way. I was going to say, yeah, we can go intellectually, but it's not like...
Which makes it a feminist movie.
It's not hitting us, it's not hitting us in the gut, do you know what I mean? We're not being dragged along emotionally by it, which I didn't feel. And you're right, the reason we're not being dragged along emotionally is, there's no surrogate for us in that movie.
Because we're watching it...
observation.
Right, we're watching it from a perspective of, while I can recognise there is things talking to women in it, ultimately, I'm watching it as psycho chick goes psycho and
Right. I wonder if when women watch it, this is something I'd be interested to know. If when women watch it, they feel, like you're saying with the split photo at the end, whether sometimes they feel with Fonda and sometimes they, empathise with Jennifer Jason Leigh, and that goes back and forth. Because I imagine that would be quite a weird dynamic to go through.
Yeah, and it would also be interesting to do. I've always had this thing. Tell me if I'm wrong or right. But I find realistic and truthful male bonding friendships or brothers or whatever in movies are very difficult to actually do. We've all seen the buddy cops or the laddish best friend, the men behaving badly types, or the Seth Rogen types or whatever. But I don't feel like I'm any of those people. I don't feel like that's my friendships or that's whatever. I don't sit around in a
Mostly in movies, it's bickering, isn't it? Like, that's how they...
Right, but I don't feel like I sit around with my friends smoking endless pot and talking about, like, skateboarding videos or whatever. Like, that doesn't really speak to me. Frat boy comedies don't speak to me in terms of, like, me being on the screen. Buddy cop things and stuff like that. Irascible old men, they like that I go, oh yeah, I see myself in that. So like, the Woody Allen comedies or Larry David or whatever it is, or who's the guy who did he did a lot of those comedies that ended up on Netflix. He did like Mother, and this is
Albert Brooks.
Albert Brooks, those kind of films. I guess so, but like not really. It's very difficult because they all come from America with a different experience to some extent. The ones where I feel they get it right in a weird way is like kind of the Wes Anderson movies. And although they're incredibly stylized, I think he does male relationships very, very, very well.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
And it may be the fact that he is friends with 3 very close brothers who he also collaborates with frequently, and maybe that plays into it. But I think the Wes Anderson movies do male relationships in a way that I can relate to, albeit through parody and stylized and whatever. I recognize it way more than I recognize the other cliche tropes. And I wonder, and again, a lot of women in cinema are reduced to cliche, whether it's the gangster's moll or the sexy ingenue or whatever it is. Like there's a lot of
with a heart of gold.
Walker with a heart of gold, right? Blah, 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 blah. And so, first of all, I wonder if Single White Female doesn't present a slightly more relatable pair of females, minus the crazy, but you know what I'm saying. Relatable females.
Certainly up to a point, where Bridget Fonda is kind of like going through
and
stuff.
I wonder if you could do, and I don't mean this in a sexist way, but I wonder if you could do a male version without it just being a Ray Liotta in Unlawful Entry as a psycho, as a psycho, as a psycho.
Yeah, because you're right, there wouldn't be that feeling of
camaraderie or unity, or
I mean, part of the whole part of the feminist,
because they're both victims. They're both victims in the film, right? Like both in the Single White Female.
One of the things that happens in feminism is they hate, when there's like arguments between women, they hate. They've got enough to deal with without arguing, fucking each other over and arguing amongst ourselves. And there's an element of that, I would imagine, about being a woman.
Right.
And that's, to an extent, that's what's going on. And the lesson that Bridget Fonda chooses to take from the whole thing is not, well, I'm going to be, I'm not going to be, duped again, or I'm not going to let my guard down, or whatever. It's, I need more empathy in my life because she went mad,
due to always being overlooked.
Yeah, and without that empathy,
But I tell you what it is as well. Jennifer Jason Leigh is a victim, or chooses to be a victim, because of the way she feels about herself, her body, her clothing, her mind, her whatever, the way other people have treated her, and so on and so forth. And Bridget Fonda, who seemingly has it all, is a victim because all these individual things start happening to her that victimize her, whether it's her fiance, the boss, or whatever it is. And so, like, I think it is. I think that whoever wrote it probably thought, well, how do I take one woman, break it out into 2, and then have it come back together again? Like the idea that everyone has those conflicting personalities in them, and on some days women could go, oh, I'm so ugly and I'm so whatever, and that can really bother them. And on other, and men as well, but I'm just saying in this case, and on other occasions feel themselves to be empowered and wonderful and successful and so on. And that dichotomy is presented not in one person but 2.
Yeah, I know. I think you're right. I think that makes sense to me.
I'm boiling it down, and I don't want to sound like cliche or sexist or anything.
No, because look,
I'm trying to just quicken up my point.
Look, the point of going to see a movie, right? Whether it's made for you or not, especially if it's not made for you, is like even when you see a film, like when you see films from foreign countries, whatever, that are obviously not made for you, like I don't know, Korean period dramas or whatever.
Have you watched a lot of Korean period dramas?
Well, I did pick that out because I have been like for some reason a lot of, and we watched a naval. Like a historical naval battle.
Yeah.
It was like very famous in Korea, and it was like this big historical war epic.
Yeah.
You know, it was really good, but like it's obviously like not for me. It wasn't made for me. It was made for Korean people.
Right.
And hopefully with enough explosions to like, you know, get bums and seats internationally. But you can watch it and like the culture of it and how this war went down and what the history of this country was is interesting, and you engage with it on an intellectual level, maybe not on that like identifying necessarily with that, because you don't really know the ins and the outs and the culture of the why this is such a big battle and what the whole thing is, and it feels like a learning experience. That can be a good thing, but I guess the point is
so what you're trying to say is watching Single White Female is like watching Koreans play battleships.
I guess I'm saying there's value.
That's what you're saying.
I am saying.
And let's leave it at that.
I'm saying feminism is a lot
on
like...
the After Movie Diner, it's Ole Breast Farrago. To play us out.
No, wait, what was the I could have used more boom boom? Yeah, I could have used more boom boom, Breast Farrago. That should be the title of the podcast.
Okay.
Right, but I really enjoy going to see it with you, and I especially enjoy talking with you about it.
Yes. It was fantastic.
Even though it's a bit pretentious at times, I still enjoy doing it.
I don't know, but I don't know how you talk about this.
No, I agree. That's
the only other way is we could have been two guys who went, well, the bitch went crazy, and then like that's the movie. Like, but that's not us. That's not you and me, and that's not what we'd want to talk about. And there was definitely stuff in there, and it's definitely a far more fascinating movie to talk about than it is to necessarily watch.
Yeah, okay.
As two guys,
I would go along with. I think, yeah, it was an interesting movie to talk about more than it was to watch as a bloke. But with the caveat, like you say, I suspect if you're a woman that it would have hit you on some kind of emotional.
No, there's
level.
tons in it that are definitely geared towards it, and I wouldn't be surprised if the two women in the film didn't have a lot to say about like things they should put in it. I would be surprised if two guys sat around and made that up. Like that would be surprising to me. I would.
Well, it's based on a book. I don't know if a bloke wrote the book.
Right.
I mean, obviously, and it was written by a man and directed by a man. That much I know. But I don't know about the book, and I don't know about the producers. And I feel like producers very often drive the project, even if it's written by a man.
But I feel like
I
feel like what the man wrote was, well, there's one woman, she moves in with another woman. Spurious reasons.
And you're right, and in the filming,
blah blah blah. And in the filming, they went, well, let's try and put this in here and let's put that in there.
Yeah. I would go along with that. Yeah,
but
thanks, man.
And now to play us out, it's Ole Breast Farrago. And as always, if you enjoy the songs at the end of the show, or if you just like to support the show, you can buy the albums that these songs appear on over at miscplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com. That's MISC plumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com, or look up Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures on Spotify and just stream the album, because even that gets us 0.1 of a cent or something. But if you all did that, then it would add up to some money. So that would be wonderful. Please do that, and please enjoy this song, Chris Christopherson.
Don't hold back, let them all hear what you have to say. Embrace uncertainty each and every day. It can be alright when everything is wrong, except Chris Christopherson. Let the trumpet sound, your world is coming around. Get dressed up to the nines, let now be your time. You will show them all, you won't be taken for a ride. You can achieve anything you want with the right person by your side. as you move from place to place, the more things stay the same. Well, the more they change the tongue, except Chris Christopherson. Best slow down, sometimes there's sirens up ahead. But you caught her attention, must be something that you said. You work all the night while everyone else is having fun. It's a Chris Christopherson. Let the trumpet sound, your world is coming around. Get dressed up to the night.